Thanks, flatmate. Appreciate that. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of what I'm eventually going to call Shift A, my little Blender tutorials. So today I want to show you something very quick and simple, something that I've wanted to be uploaded for a while, and it's just making the surface of the sun, not with any of the eruptions, solar flares, or anything like that, and then using a shader for the world background. It's going to be super simple, super easy to do, so we're just going to jump straight into it. Wow, we're already fucking this up. So, we'll create a new general, delete everything, send that cube to the moon or wherever, and then I'm going to gather my thoughts. So, Shift A, we're going to create an icosphere, and we're going to make that rather large and increase its subdivisions to about 5. That's good. Right click, shade smooth. We now have a ball. And then we're going to Shift A in a camera. I mean, you've seen my tutorials enough now. You always add a camera. And then we always, 69, nice, level out all of them. And we're going to come to 0 on the y-axis, and we're going to punch in just so we've got enough of that sun curve. That's looking about right. In fact, we'll scale this ball up even more and bring that down to about there. Maybe. We are probably going to be using Eevee in this one. Here's a spoiler. No, we are not. I end up using cycles again. What a surprise. Which is unusual for me. We will have a look at what it looks like in cycles. So I'm going to enable ambient occlusion, bloom, and screen space reflections, even though we're not really going to be doing anything reflective in this. And underworld properties, we're actually not going to be changing the color here, because we're going to do that using the shader node editor. So let's get into shading. I mean, this is how quick and easy it is. Come over to your material preview, and we're not going to be adding any lights or anything like that. We're just going to add a simple shader. So come to your shading editor with your icosphere selected, which we're going to call sun gas ball. We're going to press new, and we're going to name that sun surface. And we are going to be using the emission to power this. So we're going to create a color ramp. There we go. And we're going to create a noise texture. I actually love noise texture. Everyone says avoid noise, especially in photography. The more noise, the worse it is. But then denoising is fantastic. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Plug that into the emission. And then we want the emission strength to be 20. And then we're going to press Control Shift and click on color ramp so we can see what that looks like. It looks like the moon. So we're going to play with these values. And the white's the hot spots, so let's actually mix these around. And we can play with the scale. Play about with the roughness, and then just bring in so we've got something like that. It's pretty cool. Now obviously the sun isn't white, it's sort of that. Control Shift T onto principled BSDF. That's looking alright. That's pretty good. That emission we might need to bring down just so we can see the background a bit more. That's actually too much. What we can even try is mixing So that doesn't actually do anything. Let's remove that. Shift D on the color ramp. Shift D on the noise texture, because we're actually going to use a different scale. And then we're going to Control Shift T on this color ramp. We're going to go for yellow up there. And we're going to play with this scale, bring the detail up. Control Shift onto Principled BSDF, and we're going to mix color. Like so, and see how that looks. Yeah, we're not going to go for yellow, we're going to go for a darker orange, and then we can mix between the two. So we can dial it in. That's looking pretty good. And I think we're going to add one more, because we don't want the black spots to be completely black. That's not how it is in real life. I mean, I haven't looked at the sun recently. I'm going to plug that in. And we'll just duplicate both of these one more time. Shift D, Control Shift click on the color ramp. And let's switch over to 4D so we can actually move these around. We're going to go for a much darker red, so it's nice and, I guess, cool. I guess the brighter it is, the cooler it is. And then Control Shift click, sorry, onto the BSDF. Plug that into there and see how that looks. Okay, bring the scale up, I reckon. Oh no, down. That's looking decent. Let's bring that down a bit more. There you go, surface of the sun. And that's as quick and easy and as dirty as we need that to be. So we need to do something about this horrible grey background. That's not how space looks. So in your shading tab, up here where it says object, we switch over to world, and there's those settings. We want to, if I remember correctly, add a noise texture. I love noise textures, they're great. And we're going to add a color ramp. And we're going to duplicate these, shift click, shift D a couple of times. And we're going to rename blue shift, red shift. Oh dear. Thanks. Blue shift, red shift, and name the top one stars. And we're going to add a couple of mix nodes, and then we can get into playing. So join up the factors of the adjacent color ramps and noise textures, and then Control Shift click on the stars, and then play about with these settings. You want to go really fine. In fact, let's take it up to 250 for the scale. It's looking good. 250 on the scale for the blue and red shifts as well. Control Shift click, bring that black down. We're going to switch these over to 4D, which gives us the W coordinate system basically, so we can move the stars in the sky. So we don't want them exactly the same place, so the white stars are actually going to be blue, and the red stars are actually going to be sort of red, and we'll go a little bit darker for that as well, and change this to 6. Color, 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 color. And that is our star. So if we get rid of the sun, we'll be able to see a bit better. Now they're still looking a bit too big, and that red is a little bit too punchy still, so let's go with a more pinky purpley, because that's kind of how they look in the sky. I'm going to increase the scale to 300, 300, and 300. It's looking a little bit better. Don't want any roughness on any of these. Then just bring your blacks in like so. Again, that wine colour is not doing it for me, so let's try that. And I don't think we want as many, so that's looking good. Now, the issue with this is that stars twinkle, they glow, so we don't actually want this background colour. We want to add an emission. Plug the result of the mixes and the emission into the surface. And then we're going to bring the strength up to 15. And that pops just that little bit more. Now if we enable our sun, oh dear, well, I mean that's looking, I'm inside. If we come to the camera view, I mean that's looking pretty much like a sun in a starfield or space. There are a couple of other things we can do to really make this more realistic, and that would be adding sort of an atmosphere to the sun. So the way you would do that is firstly duplicate the sun, and then scale it up just a little bit, and then we're going to get rid of this. We'll just duplicate, and we'll go sun atmosphere, and we're going to delete all of this. At this point I'm playing as well. Maybe it's this one. Is it because we're an Eevee? It's because we're an Eevee. That's fine. Let's scale that up. So now we've got the sort of atmosphere around the sun. But what happens if we do this one? Just have a quick look. No, that's not what we want. So we do want the principled volume into the volume. Now we can bring this up to make that more punchy, but we want to kind of fade it out at the edges, and we're going to be doing that on the density. So we're going to add a color ramp, and we're also going to add a texture gradient, and we're going to do spherical. Plug that into there, and we're going to press Control T to bring up a mapping node, and we're going to use the objects mapping, and Control Shift click the color ramp just so we can see whereabouts the fall off is. Why is that not working? Maybe it is the normal. I think that's why. Cool. Why is that not working? Future me here. Whilst editing the video, I realised that I was right in the first place. It is volume scatter. We can do it the way that I have just done it, but this is an old project that I've loaded up in Blender, which I've actually did a planet, which is cool, I guess. And if you look at the atmosphere, it is fading off. So I was right. We do need to use the object into a mapping node, vector into a spherical gradient texture, and using the color ramp we can get rid of the atmosphere or really reduce it or bring it up. And that's probably how our planet is at the moment. Hashtag global warming. So you can do it this way. And then you want to multiply with a value of 1.3. I don't know why, I can't remember exactly. And you do want to use a volume scatter. And then in the case of our sun, we want the orange to add that sort of volumistic glow, fog, whatever you want to call it. Obviously in the planet they tend to have a bluish tint because of the sky. And then you'll plug that into the volume, and you'll use an anisotropicity of 0.8. But the way I'm showing you in this video still works. So, yeah. Anyway, there's a slight fall off there, so we'll stick with that. Yeah, see, that doesn't do anything. Maybe it's absorption. That'll do. And then we can come to render. Don't want too many samples, so we'll go with 250, and then we'll render that out. I'm going to go a bit jittery now. And there's the render. It's looking pretty good. Those stars are still a bit too big for me, so let's come back over to world and just dial in these settings a little bit more. That is way too much, and now you can't see the whites. We're going to hide the sun again. I'm just going to zoom in and just really dial in these stars. That's looking good. And with anything in Blender, it is all about trial and error. So I'm just showing you the basics, even if you can call it basics, and then you can dial in pretty much every other setting. So we look up, there's the sun, great, thanks, there we go. That's looking a lot nicer. They could do with being a bit punchier. Let's try 50, let's go mad. Much better. And then I'll render this out again, and then we'll just add some glare in compositing just to give it that extra punch that you'd expect if you were near the surface of the sun, I guess. And there we have it. That's looking really nice, in my opinion. As I keep saying, dial in the settings. There is a way to make this grayed out even more. I need to look at one of my previous tutorials / projects because I have done it. I just can't remember the settings I dialed in. I am using Blender 3.6.4. And I was using like 3.1 for that, so maybe a setting has changed somewhere. But anyway, let's come over to geometry nodes. No, compositing. And we're going to press use nodes, and we're going to create a viewer so we can see what we're actually doing. Oh, here's a tip. If you click on the viewer and press V, you zoom out. I wish I knew that sooner. And we'll plug that into there, and then we're just going to... Oh, I haven't seen those bars before. Can I move the whole thing? Create a glare. Let's see how that looks. Oh, those stars are looking funky. I'm actually going to keep those, and we're going to add a few more streaks. Oops. Let's make this bigger. Look at the surface of the sun now. That is looking really nice. And I'm also going to add a fog glow. And this is showing us exactly what's glowing, so let's bring that threshold down. And then bring the mix back to 0. Now we've got a really punchy scene. So if we render this again, sorry, this is the third time I render and the last time. Here we go. And boom, look at that. That's looking really nice. The stars look really nicely stylized, and so does the sun. And fun fact, if you actually look at the intro video that's on every video I make, it's better than that. I mean, this looks cool, but it looks a bit more like warm mozzarella. But it is actually emitting light, as you can see with my RX Studios logo, which is glass, so it's just bringing the highlights on the edges. And the stars are just a bit dull. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. And this is such an easy tutorial, even my flatmate Charlie can do it. So he's currently learning Blender, and I'm going through a few things with him, and he's actually asking me lots of questions on how to do certain things, and it's really making me think, to the point that I'm, with my geometry nodes cube, I'm actually rotating individual cubes within the geometry nodes. If that's something you'd like to see, let me know. And I may eventually put all my project files on something like Patreon. Not sure yet, I'm not that great, but let me know what you think. And again, I'd love to see your artwork, so let me know what you've done, and if you've got any tips and tricks. I'm always learning. I've been playing with Blender now for about 1.5 years. I haven't done anything massively complicated. I want to get into soft body physics and modeling, sculpting. That's going to be a long way down the line, but anything I can do in this program is brilliant. So yeah, let me know, tell me what you think, like, share, subscribe, or do all that, comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great evening, morning, or whatever. Goodbye.